Hey everyone. I'm Brenton and I'm here with Buck for Brenton's question of the week. Question that collectors think about but don't always ask. So last week's question is less really more? So here are some of the responses from the community. Mojo Potato said, I couldn't agree more that less is more when it comes to displaying statues. I see collections out there that make me think I'm watching an episode of Hoarders. Sometimes it gives off more of a toy store look, which I'm not into. I appreciate the displays that are themed and spaced out properly. I would like my display of statues to tell a story. That's just my preference, though. Knight said, I agree with you 100%. I see people with awesome pieces, but they're all on top of each other, and you drown the beauty. But to them, they need more cause to how they love it. Me, less is more beautiful. And Vane21 said, that's a big topic to ask me, but I do prefer fewer pieces, well spaced out, maybe even fewer high end pieces. The quality over quantity theory. So, thank you all for the great responses. And this week I've been thinking about, are collectors' expectations of distributors flawed? And, we're thinking about it from when production is done to when your distributor gets it in hand and sends it to you. So, Buck, I'll turn it over to you first and give your thoughts on this question here.
So are collectors expectations flawed in that regard? I want to say no. It depends on who your distributor is, and just also how long you're always going to be comparing different distributors to each other, and you're always going to have one that you view as a gold standard. And when what like how long you wait with you're always going to be tolerable within a certain extent, with your distributor that you've chosen to get products from, and that tolerance wanes with depending on how many more of the others have gotten their product out to the people who purchase from them. And so when you're starting to get to the point where you're one of the last people there, and you start questioning, should I even have bought from this person? Maybe if I paid a little more, or if I researched more about this place and their track record with this specific manufacturer, would I have gotten a better experience? I think it's fair to do that as a collector. You always want to find out where you can get the best service by doing the most research. And so, how long you wait, you know.
Yeah, and that's true. And it feels like what you're saying is we can't have generalized expectations because there's too much variability from all the distributors that we could purchase from. So it's really on collectors themselves to kind of do the research and figure out what are the general rules of thumb for every place that you can buy a statue, so you can probably calibrate your expectations to that degree. So if you know, oh, I'm buying from X distributor, this is when they tend to get their product. That way, I think it would ease some confusion within the community. That, okay, I don't like how long this is taking, or I'm getting frustrated because I'm starting to see other people get theirs in, and I really want mine. Because I think that's, common among collectors, is there is this degree of impatient. And, we all want to get our stuff. And I've said this before that, my personality is I kind of wanted it yesterday. So I'm always, like, patience isn't a virtue for me. So I definitely struggle with that. But I think this is important for people to have an awareness to it. Like,
Let,
go ahead.
let me ask you this, because what you said really spurred a question in me. In that, you see other people receive, or the first. This is what always happens. I feel people see that the people in China receive theirs. The first pictures roll out on social media, and then everyone probably goes and messages the distributor and say, "Hey, when are you gonna get it in? When am I getting mine?" That's the first wave. when the impatience starts to go like, okay, the pressure is no longer on the manufacturer to produce the statue. It's now on your distributor to get it in hand and get it to you. But that's the first one. And then they're going to see, everyone's going to wait again for a while. And it hits the US, the first US collector post.
Hmm.
That's when people really start to get impatient. At what point do you think after the first US collector gets theirs, is it like unreasonable or even like, so like, what is the span of time where it's unreasonable to be like, hey, you should have gotten me mine now, 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 now? And then when you can say, I really should have this by now. Something is wrong with your distributor.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question because, you know, I don't know how many people have looked at it as where is that appropriate window of what my expectations should be? Like, at what point do I start like bugging my distributor often to be like, hey, this is starting to get on the, borderline excessive here. Like, I've been patient. I really want this. I'm excited. I paid for it. None of this stuff is cheap. And where is that window? What's the time frame? Should it be 6 months when that first statue hits the U.S.? Is that reasonable? Is it a year? Should I be waiting a year after the first person in the U.S. gets theirs? Do I
The
start
answer is
asking, what kind of questions do you ask? I would never ever advise anyone to be hostile to talking to another person because that's not going to benefit you in any way, shape, or form. Like, that is not the way to get ahead.
that's another important thing. Like, how do you approach the distributor and how do you request answers? The more cordial you are, the more willing they are to continue to engage with you and engage with you in a, maybe they're not just trying, because if you remain pleasant, they're not just seeking to end what you've turned into a confrontation, you know so try not to turn like your request for answers or updates into something that's confrontational with your distributor. Try to work with them. That's not to say that they are always faultless, but like, try to be forgiving and understanding of whatever unique like us like situation of pitfalls they might be experiencing in trying to get the product to you. But I also want to beseech the distributors to be patient with the collectors and also try to be more open with the information you're giving. Like, try to paint a fuller picture for us. Help us understand why things are late. Because if you do that for us, if you help us, like, if you say something better than it's coming, and if you tell us, oh, like we're still waiting for the container to fill up in China, it might take a few more months. But like once it's full, it's gonna start heading here. I'll give you an update once like it's full and it's coming to the US. So that kind of answer is gonna buy you a lot of like goodwill from the collector, I
Yeah,
think.
and it'll help temper your expectations, right? Because if someone says, "Oh, it's going to be a month," then okay. In my head, it's I can wait a month, and then I'll check in again and see what's going on because this is what I was told. This is the time frame, and I understand it's not perfect because there's no way of them knowing the exact time. Especially if they're in a position where you have to wait till a container's filled. So
Yeah.
I understand. I try and be as reasonable as possible. And I think a lot of issues come with your first time purchase. Because I don't know about you, but if my first time buying somewhere is, I'm left with a lot of unknowns and I've spent a lot of money, I feel like I'm more antsy with that first time purchase than I am if I feel more comfortable buying from someone and being like, yeah, I know I'll get it. I'll know that, it's maybe not the fastest, but, they'll come through for me at the end. Because I think I experienced that to a degree with when I got my art print. Because I was dealing with this studio I've never dealt with before. I didn't know anyone else that ever had dealt with them. And at least the customer service and the guy I talked with, he got back to me fairly quick and eased my mind a little bit. But I did have a sense there where I'm like, man, I wonder if I'm getting ripped off here. Like, I wonder if my money's just gone and I'm screwed.
Do you think like collectors are asking too much in wanting to have more of a bespoke, like a customer support experience? In that maybe someone doesn't want a cookie cutter answer, and they want like something that helps them have a fuller picture and a fuller understanding of what the holdup is. Because for the most part, it's like this hobby is a waiting game, and people hate waiting. But
Yeah.
and what it is, a waiting game. So like as like a collector, is it like we want answers. We want to know all the unknowns, and the distributor might not know the answers to the questions we're asking. I think it's better that they tell us that, and like they give us a more tailored response. That addresses any questions you asked, like in a way that doesn't seem brief and short.
Yeah,
Like
no,
be
I think I agree with you. I think that's definitely an area where, distributors can always work to improve in, where, don't just say a generic response to a degree. At least put in the time and effort. And I understand that maybe you're busy, but, I guess there's an idea if you don't have to get to every message that day or something, you can do as much as you possibly can, but take the time to read what the person's saying, kind of look up the order number, look into the situation, try and figure out what's going on, and then report back to them in the most honest way possible.
I also want to say that we don't own like distribution channels. We're not selling anyone statues, so we don't know about the unique difficulties that they might be experiencing that might prevent them from doing some of the suggestions that we think should be very easy and no-brainer moves. We don't know what might be preventing them from doing that, and so I do want to mention that, yeah, what we're saying is like these are suggestions for how we think things can be better, but at the same time, we don't know if they're really feasible.
Yeah, and I think that's well said, Buck, that, we don't know all the background hurdles that, distributors face. And I think that's why we should give them the benefit of the doubt because we don't have that insight. But I think they should, consider suggestions that we provided and, just try and be as reasonable and kind as possible and just give us the sense, I guess, as collectors that, you care, that you're invested in this, that it's not just for the money, I guess, that, maybe we're building something more than that.
I think that's good. I think we should probably ask people in the comments to share like how they think they can good ideas they think they could help distributors to improve, and what they wish would be added or done to make their experience buying statues and maybe after sale service be better.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great. So anyone can feel free to provide any kind of suggestions that you think, what could distributors improve upon, and we always want to be as respectful as possible, but just give us an idea of, areas that maybe are lacking and you could see room for improvement that would just make purchasing and collecting just a better experience. So I want to say just thank you everyone for watching, and come back next week for another hard-hitting question.